Tushar, can we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's 10:04, so I think we can start, and hopefully more participants will join in overtime.
Yeah.
So, very good.
Start.
Surya, are you here? Surya?
हाँ, एक तरफ कहीं रोक लिया।
Yeah, Tushar, I'm here.
Okay, so I think we can begin now. So, very good morning to all. My name is Architect Tushar Mandal. On behalf of the Periyar School of Architecture, I welcome you all to the 36th webinar in the Every Friday webinar series, a platform for young minds to express their ideas. Today, we will be discussing regenerative design strategies in shaping urban experiences, presented by architect Ar Surya Srinivas, who will be sharing his learnings from his time in France. So before introducing the speaker for today, I would like to honor architect Premendra Raj Mehta, who is the mentor of our school along with his partner. He is also the former president of the Council of Architecture. Sir, if you could just say a few words to motivate us today morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you, Tushar. Let me first of all welcome Surya on this platform and all the participants who have joined in today. I extend a very warm greetings to you. I must say that this is to Tushar's credit that this is now almost the 8th or 9th month we are in it. This every Friday webinar where we invite a young mind, an architect or an engineer or people from different professions to share their ideas, their experiences, which could shape our future application of that idea or maybe persuasion with the requisite authorities and so on. So this is a platform where we intend to encourage new ideas, sharing of new ideas, development of a new idea. And at Periyar School, we wish to support such thought with the concerned authorities or within the professional community or within the concerned professionals. So I extend a very warm welcome to Surya, and I'm very happy that he brings in his experience and how he has started looking at things little differently based on his experiences in France, where he has worked, he has traveled, and I hope he has something to share with us which would be either applicable in our context or at least ignite our minds to think a little differently. So very warm welcome to you, Surya, and warm welcome to all the participants. I hope you'll all enjoy. Don't hesitate to ask as many questions as you think you need to ask Surya. And also, if you wish to give a feedback to Periyar School, connect with Tushar. If you think there should be someone who should be sharing his ideas with us, connect him also with Tushar. We'll all be benefited. We'll all be enriched. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So now I will introduce the speaker for our session today, architect Surya Srinivas. Surya is an architect and urban designer who has 8 years of comprehensive professional experience in the field of architecture, urban design, planning, and urban conservation across various cities and towns of India. He has also worked in Paris. He is currently working as a technical advisor at C40 Cities in the city of Bangalore. Before joining C40, he was working with AECOM Delhi and most recently as a consultant to the government of Andhra Pradesh. Just a second. Where he has been involved in large-scale public sector master planning, social infrastructure, and retrofitting projects as a part of the Smart City Initiative, with a focus on placemaking, community participation, climate responsive, people-centric design, and emphasis on public health. This presentation is a part of the learning from the first UTAP program, which is a part of an exchange program for young urban designers between French and Indian governments. I would request Surya to now begin his presentation, and I also request all the participants to keep themselves muted for the duration of the presentation. Once the presentation is over, we will be opening the floor for question and answers where you can ask your questions and doubts. At the same time, if there's a question that you would want to put, that maybe you want to remember, or a key point, then you could put it in the chat box for us to discuss later. Surya, you can now begin your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Periyar School, for having me here. And thank you, everyone, for taking out your time and joining the webinar. So, like Tushar was saying, it's a presentation about my experiences when I was doing my internship or the exchange program which he was mentioning in Paris. I was working there for 6 months, and I've traveled quite a bit around in and around Paris. So these are some learnings. Like it's a pure pictorial presentation and not much of drawings or something, but it's a take on how I have seen things, or what we learned from it, or few learnings. I'm not saying it's I'll have all the technical answers for you, but yeah, definitely I would like to take up some questions and answer whatever questions you have. And yeah, I was saying, I traveled to Paris in 2018. It's a first UDAP program between Government of India and Government of France. It's 5 urban designers went there and worked there for 6 months. That's the main. Now the program is into its fifth year now. Fifth batch was doing their internship there. So luckily we were one of the first batches to do that. So I won't take much of your time, but I'll dive into the presentation. I'll switch off my video right now, and I'll get so that the audio is clear for you all. Okay. So yeah, just a second. Bonjour, hello. I guess to take you into France, I guess this is the easiest word I could get. So for us, Paris is, I guess, Eiffel Tower, Louvre Museum, and Champs-Élysées, all those avenues, boulevards. This is what I guess the image of Paris we generally have. I'm not saying everyone has it, but yeah, generally have it. So let's talk something different today. Maybe some it's a random projects here and there. There is no link, but there is one link which ties everything. Is that they are either redevelopment project or renewal project or reuse or something related to word reuse and sustainability. So I would before diving into those projects, I want to touch upon few examples which are like very evident and very innovative in their stance. Like this is called Musée d'Orsay. It is quite on the other side of the Louvre Museum, other bank of the Louvre Museum, quite opposite to it. It's a railway station converted into a museum. So see, if you see the timeline, this was done. The restoration is done same period during when the Pompidou was happening. So that in the same timeline, there were two different architectural expressions which are happening in the same city. I guess 500 meters across, walking distance between them. So this is an old station, like all the stations in the bigger master plan of Paris. All the stations were moved to little outside the boundary. Of course, they are also inside right now. And these old stations were this was converted into a museum, one of the very famous and top 5 museums in Paris to visit. You should never miss this. If you see, this is the interior, how they didn't use the whole space as it is. They have retained few elements. They have taken their original principles, and yeah, see the contemporary way of a museum experience which they have created. Yeah, these two are the original pieces which still there. So whenever you visit Paris, don't miss this museum. So this is one more example I would like to tell you about. This is a part of a Bercy village they call. So old warehouses in a. If you see, the track is still visible in the picture. The whole it's part of a very big redevelopment project, but I want to focus on this small project where the small warehouses were reimagined as a commercial space. A metro was made sure pass through nearby this. It's a walking distance from the metro, so that people actually the picture doesn't show people because we went early in the morning, but it was quite a space during the lunch and dinner. So it's one of the, if you see the background, there are so many office spaces. So they didn't like, it's part of a very big redevelopment project. They didn't demolish these warehouses, rather they have kept to a new use. Like that actually brings a new what do you say, vibe or energy, or what do you say, new image to this whole space. So this is one more example. It's called ground control. It's an old postal office, postal building, I would say, where they segregate letters for various, like this is located next to a very big railway terminal. So this space was, of course, the warehouse, the whole system was shifted over the time. So what today it is a space for interactions, exhibitions, or debates, or few restaurants were, few eateries were there around. It's a very huge space where people can come, interact, and just like it's maintained as a community space for the people, but it's mostly for the office goers who are in the district. And this is one more example where it's called Senqua. It's a crematorium converted into a social and community space. This is located in a neighborhood which is little unsafe, and the crime rate was very high different earlier. So what they have done is like they have converted this crematorium, and they have given a new use. Like they could have easily made it into some other crematorium use or some other use, but they have kept it to a social and community use. Like they made it a very open space to anyone to enter. It's a space where people, if you see, I was actually stuck in all, like people were just exchanging talents. They're dancing, they are doing some other sports, they're just doing exercise. Some people are just sitting there and enjoying. They're just interacting there. So yeah, it is creatively done. They have respected the original architecture, but yeah, innovatively changed the interior. I wouldn't say it's a conservation project. It's a complete redevelopment, renewal project, I would say. It's a space for exchange of art, sports, anything. You can just come and sit also. It's not a problem. And yeah, they have due to the space constraint, they didn't make anything permanent. They have kept everything flexible. Everything is demolished. If there is a show, yes, yeah, it will become a seater of auditorium. If not, it is some other activity. And yeah, luckily there was a exhibition going on. It's a photography exhibition. Yeah, lucky Gurgaon didn't leave us in Paris also. The exhibition was about Gurgaon and its residential sector in Gurgaon by a photographer from Paris. And one more example, it's a, yeah, this is a school which we went to there like as an exchange program. So it's a old factory converted into a architectural school. They have, if you see, the old building and the new building share the same campus with a common courtyard. There is a different expressions in the all together. It's a school of urbanism. Their school of thought is mostly on urban redevelopment and urbanism. So they have expressed it in their architectural style also. They have retained the chimney. It's because it's an old factory. And if you see, there is a complete contrast between the previous building and this building, but it's still the same campus. They have so yeah, the common space is used as a student interaction. This is one more architectural school. Yeah, it's again a factory converted into architectural school as part of another project. So not only that, like this is a place where we stayed. It's a student housing, or I would say. But what we understood, like when I entered the space, I didn't know anything about it. But when I went back, saw it on Google, it's a old bus terminal converted into a redevelopment housing mixed use. Yeah, the terminal was moved to a stilt and cellar floors, and they have reused the other space for housing project. So it's a very innovatively done project. Yeah, there is a metro here, and there is a bus terminal. They try to use the circulation in such a way that people are not disturbed. There's a continuous walkway and all. But it in itself, it's a very good architectural expression, I would say. They have used innovative terraces. Like we stayed there in the space for 6 months. Yeah, every morning it was a different view for us. And there is one more. I was talking about buildings now, but this is one small intervention in a community where they have created a space to play. They don't have parks there. There were very little access to the parks, but yeah, there are a lot of young children who wants to play. Like, so what the city government or the municipality has done they collaborated with the Adidas brand, and they have created this basketball court, which is they have expressed it in a different way with the color that it has. It will catch your eyes. Yeah, this is a borrowed image, but see the space. It's a very narrow space, but very active space. And it has actually brought so many people together, and and it is a very happening space, I would say. Like sometimes it's always not, you need not rebuild the whole structures, you need not build buildings, but rather convert into a small space. It can give you a very huge results. It's always in our hands how you want to have this space as. And one more image from my experience is that people, it's a communication with the stakeholder. This is a drawing in one of the redevelopment projects along the railway tracks. It's an open space project. It's called a mile. It's almost a 3-kilometer long old track converted into a park thing. But they kind of expressed it into a simple drawing so that, and it's kept in the park entrance at several entrances, and so that people know what is happening in their society. If they have objections, they can come get back to it. I observed this drawing for almost 6 months. It was still there, and they have kept some period. There is a website. It's a very nice thing so that people know what is happening in their community and what people actually want. It's, if they reject the project, it is rejected. There is nothing on top of it. That it is the city's responsibility to take it to the people and get approval from the people. So yeah, I have given you a lot of examples and all, but right now I'll focus on 2 examples. One is on a redevelopment project of a formal industrial site converted into mixed-use development. It's a place located on the southwest corner of the Paris inner circle boundary. So the other one is architectural project, sort of architectural project. So yeah, I'll start with this. It's more like a master planning view. So one, very casually, we were one Sunday afternoon, we decided to visit an architectural thing, because we didn't know this project existed when we until unless we went to see this. It's a very good building located near the scene. It's a hall, but what caught our eyes is the development which was across that bridge. It was a foot-over bridge, so we thought, we entered from one side, why don't we exit from the other side? But it actually caught our attention, like how this building caught our. It's a primary school in the same development. It is when we went back to our computers and saw what did we actually see today. So this is the building, what I was saying, the scene, but this is the development what actually caught our attention. It's a mixed-use development of Renault site. Like in 1950 it was a factory. In 1992 they have removed the factory, and 2006 they started the construction, and yeah, today you can see it is like this in 2016. So yeah, what did they do? They actually converted into mixed use housing plus office, again with some if you see, this is the main metro line and main road, and these are the internal. This is another primary road, and from there the whole development roads come in. And yeah, but what they did is they have used the main roads for the mixed use with housing, and they have created, the emphasis was on the pedestrian movement, cycling, like whatever principles we have been taught in new urbanism, what we have learned in my practice here in Delhi, or what we are trying to do in here, I could see in a first hand. Like there was very less, yeah, luckily it was a Sunday, very less car movement, but generally the design was such that the car movement was restricted in the public areas. There was intermediate connections between the blocks. Like you can happily, as a pedestrian, you can walk to the public transport through the blocks. You need not go all around in the take the long routes, rather have the shortcuts. And there are proper connections, proper pedestrian crossings, yeah, everything at a human scale. And one more important point is like the landscape. It's part of the integral part of this whole development, because it's a old factory site. It was a lot of contaminated soil, but what they did is use that landscape as a treatment to regenerate that whole soil. They made sure they have treated it chemically, then used the species which will actually act to regenerate those areas, and very good landscape pathways and small pockets, and even those everything is a biosphere. I will show it in the next slide. Like if you see all the slides, all the pictures here, all these pedestrian paths or the roads, all these green pockets are the biospheres which collects the rainwater and recharges before it enters the Seine River. So if you see, this is the image what I got from the website. So this whole uh, open space is connected through all these swales, which I have shown you in the previous pictures, and all these green spots are the recharge pits, rainwater recharge pits. And in terms of whenever there is a flooding overflow, or whenever there is a flooding situation, this whole park acts as a sponge space for that. So they have integrated the blue-green network, what we call, and the open spaces along with the pedestrian or public spaces very well into this development. And yeah, whenever, like example, why I have shown you this simple, whenever we talk about all these aspects, we have examples. May not be exactly the same our context, but definitely they can be like sir was saying, ignite our thoughts in a way. Like earlier I used to use these words, put the reference images, but at least today I have seen this picture. So so that's how I stopped that project in the of the first about redevelopment and at a master planning level. And now I jump into a very more, I would say, public building come urban architectural conservation project. This is a museum, and you call them museum. It's a museum of civilization of European and Mediterranean. So it's located in a place called Marseille. It's in the southern part of France. It's you don't see similarities between Paris and this place, because it has the vibe of Mediterranean coastal, like the Spain. If you see all the coastal parts of Europe has a kind of a influence. They are more colorful. They use colors as their symbolism. In Paris, you can only see gray stone with a large stone usage, but here it's color. It's known for its natural setting, and yeah, you know this building, right? So it's known for this building by Le Corbusier. And there is one more pavilion, very interesting pavilion by Norman Foster. So that I can't give you the whole context of the city, but yeah, this is a little introduction to the city. It's quite different. It's a very heavily terrained site. So so what are we talking about is this project, the Fort Saint John project, connected to a museum. It's a museum, but if you see, the whole terrain is such that it's sloping towards the sea, and there is a huge difference between the level of at this level and this level and this level. So sort of this is the master plan or the of the development. So you can see they have introduced two pedestrian bridges at two different levels, so, and connected the this fort to other parts of, like, if at all you have to enter this museum without the bridge, you should have get down, go all around the plaza and then enter. But instead, what they have treated as, they have, even though there are three different projects, they have integrated with some very minimal intervention of connecting and thinking together how this can look in a single development. And if you see, this is located in a very huge plaza which connects to a very old church and the streets of Marseille. So definitely when a tourist or any person enters this fort, they need not come back. They can just go forward and connect to the old city. So this is the museum building I was saying. It's done by a very famous architect of France, Rudy Ricardo. And this is the fort, Saint John Fort. It's a very historical fort. Earlier, used as a army base, but now it is, and it's a watchtower. Actually, if you see, it was located in one corner of the bay, so it is mostly the watchtower for the older settlement. But now today it was restored. It was actually sort of damaged, so they have restored and extended into a museum. So yeah, this is not taken by me, but yeah, if you see, there is a huge, you can see there is almost a 4-floor difference between this part and the road below. So definitely when you see at a urban contextual level, these two bridges make a very important connection. And this is how it looks. And this is one of the beautiful views of the city from the palace, from the fort, sorry. So yeah, what they did, they have restored yes, definitely they have merged some new components into the old fort. they definitely respected the old fort context. They have used minimal landscape. They try to integrate the rustic flavor into the landscape part, and they sort of used wherever it is required the green, and they have introduced green. Definitely, the fort didn't have green earlier. And edge plantation, they actually kind of gave like, if you see, this is the view of the sea from the fort. So they use landscape as the foreground or the picturesque setting for the whole thing. And they have used the street furniture or the seating in such a way that it merges into the context rather than it is something different. They have used old wood from, they have borrowed it from a different place and integrated into it. And they try to create those pathways all around. Like, if this is the plaza on the top where it connects it to the bridge to the other part, so they kind of use this plaza as a amalgamation part where people from below comes to this area and people from the other museum come to this area. This kind of act as a public junction where people disperse from it, and that sort of created a resting point or a pause point for people to actually sit through its uh, very minimally done landscape architecture, I would say. They provide the necessary shade in the summers and create the right ambience. They don't dominate the whole development, rather help it. So this is the plaza in a different season, I would say. So this is a bridge. It's a cantilevered, completely concrete bridge connecting to the terrace of the other museum. So they kind of while designing this whole museum, they kind of gave a ramp all around the circumferencing the whole building, so that a person who doesn't want to visit the museum can just go through the ramp, go down, and go into the plaza. So this building is acting like a connector. It's not saying that it's a private space. Yeah, definitely they have maintained the public and private space. So example, you don't want to visit the museum, or maybe you can't afford to visit the museum, you can just use the ramp, exit to the plaza, and continue your journey. Rather than, so sometimes all the public buildings need to have this, like, their public use. Sometimes you can't say that only a ticketed entry should have it, or people with a ticket only can enter it. It's not like that. Sometimes it can be just a mere connector also. So yeah, nothing to do with the project, but it's a beautiful architectural building located next to the museum in the same plaza, I would say. So yeah, before signing off, I would take it to one more project in the same city. It's a port docks. It's a old port docks buildings which they have converted into office space and what do you say, hotels, restaurants, so that they in today's context, yeah, if you see, this is the project I was telling you. So it's a old docklands for the city, but today it is one of the most happening districts of the city. So definitely, yeah, this couldn't learn much about this project, but whenever I went through this project, it was a very interesting way. They have amalgamated the public and private space. They ensure there is only public transport access, separated the private car movement and the pedestrian movement, and they kind of restricted car access to the behind, and ensured the main facade is mostly pedestrian. I would say I would end this here. I would say thank you, Mercy. And yep, I'll open the floor for the question answers now. If you have any questions from these two projects or anything related to the presentation, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Surya, for the wonderful presentation. I think it was pretty interesting to look at these projects from other, like separate, I would say a different form of thinking in a way, and hopefully we can also get inspired and see how contextually we can apply these learnings to let's say our like to our cities. So yes, we open the floor for questions now. If there's any participant who want to either ask a question or just give in their comments, they can just unmute themselves and do so, or they can probably put it in the chat box if they would. If they feel more comfortable with that. But yeah, we are now inviting in questions. Please, I do encourage all the participants to add in either the comments or whatever questions they have, since we have have the speaker with us right now. Yeah. But in the meantime, I think Surya, I would probably want to begin with a question of my own. So, I mean, you have seen different cities and across Paris, across France, and then at the same time, I think you have now also worked up with different smart city projects across India, right? So, for you, what would you say would be the, let's say, a fundamental difference in approach between, I wouldn't say like a positive or a negative difference, but let's say a simple fundamental difference in how cities are approached or urban design problems are approached in the two regions.
Uh, yeah, from my little experience in Paris, like there is one more project we have visited. Like it was a 10-year long project and still ongoing redevelopment project. There is a 50% project which restores the old project. 50% is a new building. So uh, to your answer your question, like example in that project, what we learned, like they have taken it for a site visit. Like the architect or the master planner have the plan freezed. No, I wouldn't say freezed. There is a master plan first. It was taken to the people, agreed, taken to the city, agreed, and then it was out for the PMU, what we call in India the PMU, and there are different competitions held for individual buildings and still respect the overall master plan and ensure the architectural freedom is still there for individual buildings. It's not like saying that okay, in this development you can't express yourself, but within some urban design guidelines. So in that project, that is a still ongoing project. It's almost like 20 years the project started. The way it was getting converted into reality today. First, they started with the roads. They have done the major improvements in the infrastructure, and there the buildings are coming up one by one. And yeah, if you see 20 years, there are 2 decades from the starting. So definitely the architectural expressions change, the people requirements change, aspirations change. So today the project is reinventing itself. It's not saying that okay, this is the master plan, this is the architectural expression, we will stick to it. No, definitely not. Today they are even challenging. Like when we went in 2018, there were few sections of the project which they are changing it today also. Like they're saying that why don't we approach it as per today's needs? Maybe there was a new tram coming up, there was some other, maybe they thought the real estate is not working for the older way of thinking, or they thought the public spaces or the social spaces became less, or the connections became less, something or the other. They are trying to evolve, like every 10 years or every 5 years. Whenever they're taking up a project, they are reinventing. Like we had a chance to meet the main PMU who are handling. Yeah, luckily that the head is a architect and an urban planner. So there we saw a system where everyone in the whole chronology are involved in the whole process, like not from the master planner till the contractor or the funder who is putting the money, and the person, like if none of the projects like example, the every architectural competition is out in the public and people vote for it, whichever wins and whichever suits all the, like example, sustainability principles, building codes, building energy principles, everything whatever set in the, like 20 years before, Paris was not so keen on their building energy requirements, but today all the buildings which are happening the same development has to follow strict building energy or the low carbon emission products, etc., etc., etc. So that's, I have seen a huge development happening systematically over the time there. But here what we in smart city, I would say it's a starting, like where we thought okay, cities need not be expanded every time, they can be relooked, redeveloped, or reinvented sometimes. I wouldn't say every time you have to erase it and build it, but sometimes it's a necessity to reimagine. Like, so that's how cities always give you opportunity every time and time. So smart cities gave an opportunity. Few cities did well. Few cities made it city centers walkable. So few cities couldn't understand the whole part of having 10 different, like example, it's city is never a unilateral thing, right? It's not just the design, it's not the architect. You need to have engineers, water engineers, bureaucrats, politicians, people, a person who is using it, everyone has to come together. That's the most important part, which I say is missing, or still we are learning, or we are going towards it, in my experience, to get I would like Mumbai. In Mumbai, the port project is happening. It's a redevelopment project, right? So I guess everyone knows how it is going on. Yeah, there is a master plan, there is a way of going it, but yeah, there are ways where people are approaching it in a different. I would say there is still methods we need to understand, that urban design, urban plan, or a master plan is really important before we jump into the small details. But it's not like that. It can be done aloof. You need to get every stakeholder on board before even getting onto the project. That's a bigger difference, I would say, where we are still trying to achieve. I'm not saying we are not, but yeah, in few places we are.
So I think hopefully we, as a not just as a nation of bureaucrats, but also as people, would be able to evolve and be adaptable, and maybe make sure that the development that is happening around us is adhering to the needs of the ever-changing needs of the people themselves, I would say, right?
Yes.
Yes. In the meantime, let's just yeah, Surya, if you could just check the chat box, we do have a few comments in there as well from the participants. And I think in the participant list, I also see architect Prakriti Mehta. So I would like to welcome her. She is also one of the supervisors for the school. I welcome you, ma'am. If you could just give in your comments or questions regarding the topic itself for the presentation.
Yeah. Sorry for the nasal voice. Thank you, Tushar, uh, for hosting this webinar today, and thank you, Surya, for a wonderful presentation. Uh, I just have a few points which I thought that in some ways summarize my understanding, and probably we could comment upon it as well. Um, and while I'm looking at the whole idea of regenerative design, which is also sometimes in some sense associated with sustainability, or in a very environmental sense sometimes. But you've brought about a different perspective to it by linking regenerative design to heritage, to the social aspect of a city, to an ecological aspect of a city as well. So, which is, I feel, wonderful about the presentation, where revival of a city, of a place, is not purely thought from when we talk about regenerative design from a purely environmental perspective, which is great. And also, in some sense, you've also brought about the whole idea or the perspective of where you have a traditional perspective, or a religious perspective, or a spiritual perspective that you also spoke about with some of your projects. To sometimes in the past we had certain ideas of self reorganization, but what you've also brought about into the light is the idea of creativity, which is very well linked with architectural design or urban design, so to speak. And then this push of creativity has actually created some marvels. So, purely believing that self organization, in some sense, where traditions are just evolving, would lead to a design vis-a-vis your perspective, where architecture is used as a tool to to creatively think of what could be the future. So, and that you've brought through with wonderful examples, and also brought through that these creative architectural marvels, or these designs have created not just a revival of tradition, but has also led to regeneration or reuse, or in some sense sustainability through heritage, through social impacts, and through cultures as well. And it can be a continuous evolutionary process through design. So I think that's wonderful about your presentation, Surya. Thank you so much for coming here. And I hope, I've understood your perspective through of regenerative design correctly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prakriti, for those words. I just wanted to add to it, like, yeah, definitely, it's always like having that context or giving that new angle to it always makes a different challenge. It's always how we approach it, right? Like, definitely, those are developed countries. We are still developing country, and the processes are not great here. Agreed, but I'm not saying they are not. I want to put this point in the group that the processes there are worst. I would say in so in a different way. The people are lazy. They don't take immediate decisions. But yeah, there are some norms or the restrictions, or some people that maybe the architect sticks to the ground, like it says this is important for the community, this is important for this space, or maybe transport wise, maybe in the angle of infrastructure, if something is important, the core soul or this thing is not touched upon. But there are delays. Yes, there are a lot of delays there also. The processes are delayed in the same way what is happening in India. But yeah, I would say I'm not saying that we are still developing, we can't reach there. We can definitely reach it. Just only thing is we need not copy them. We should not copy them, because we are not the same. Like, they have a different social thing, they have a different technical aspect, they have a, in terms of financial resources. But like you said, the one word creative, that word makes the whole difference for the whole country, I would say. Like, whenever we are approaching urban or architectural or any other problem, when an architect or a planner or an engineer can be creative, I don't think, I guess it is, if it is achievable everywhere. Like, the only thing is you need to understand the main core about the project and be a little sensitive to the context, people, the social sentiments. Maybe it can be religious sentiments when it comes to India, and a lot more. The only thing is we are still going and trying to get into that path. We I would say, I guess it's still with the whole planners, designers have the, I would, responsibility, I would say, use that tool which we possess, or we have the creativity part, and maybe see the urban part differently, or the architectural thing in India differently. Yes, that is the tool we need to use, maybe, which others need not use it.
Okay, thank you both to Prakriti ma'am and Surya for the wonderful discussion. Yes, if there's any other participant who wants to ask a question, they can please feel free to do so. You can just unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat box. Yeah, so I think we can wait for a few more questions. We do seem to have time. Is there any other question that participant wants to ask? There does not seem to be a question, but yeah, so in the meantime, Surya, if you could just go through the chat box once again, there seem to be a few more comments regarding the presentation. And then since
Thank
we
you,
don't seem
Shravan.
to be,
Thank you everyone for your comments, and please, you can feel free to ask or write it to me. Maybe I can answer those.
yes, so since we don't seem to be having any more questions, I think we can bring the webinar to a close now. But
Yes.
before closing, I would like to inform everyone about the Every Friday webinar series that is being organized by the Peria School of Architecture. So the webinars are a platform for young professionals to express their ideas and are aimed at students and young architects. Even within the participants, if there's any participant who feels that they would want to share their ideas with us, just as today's speaker, I would request that you can get in touch with me through our website, which is periarsoa.org. If you just you could just write to us regarding with your topic in mind, and we can take it ahead from there. At the same time, if you would want to look at the recordings of this webinar and the previous webinars, they are all available on our website as well. With this, I would like to bring the webinar to a close. I thank Surya for the wonderful presentation and for making time for us today, and to all the participants as well for making time and for attending the webinar. Thank you. Please have a good day.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Prakriti. Thank you for giving this opportunity and time to or a space to share my thoughts with others. And thank you everyone for taking out time and participating in the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.